Hi everyone, I'm Susan Mulvihill and welcome to the next installment of Everyone Can Grow a Garden. In my April 2nd column, I wrote about protecting your seedlings from the weather. Now, if you went to the trouble of starting your plants from seed, or you went to a greenhouse and purchased some seedlings, it's pretty mean to put them right out into the garden and assume they're going to do okay, because they probably won't. They need help acclimating to the intensity of the sunlight and to the temperatures. So this involves a process called hardening off. The way it works is you take your seedlings and you set them outside where they're not in too much sun and they're out of the wind. Leave them outside for about an hour the first day, and then you put them back indoors. The second day, you're going to set them out for a couple of hours and put them back indoors. So all of this goes on over the course of a week for the week before you're ready to plant them out into the garden. And each day you're extending the amount of time that they're outside. By the end of that week, they will be used to the sunlight and to the temperatures, and then they will do great. So I have a few more ways to protect your seedlings, so let me show you out in the garden. This is floating row cover, and I wrote about it in my column, but I wanted to show you what it looks like. As you can see, it's a very lightweight fabric. It lets in air, light, and moisture, so if it were to rain, the water would go through it. But what's really great is it adds a few degrees of frost protection for your plants, and that is so important early in the season. And so I wanted to show you what we do. On the outsides of our raised beds, we have put some 3/4 inch PVC pipe and just clamped them to the sides of the beds. And then we have some 1/2 inch diameter flexible black plastic sprinkler pipe, and they easily slip into those PVC risers. And we have hoops. They're not super strong, but they're strong enough to support this floating row cover with no problem whatsoever. So all you do is just put them over the hoops, over the corners of the bed, and then you definitely want to weight down the ends to make sure they don't blow off in a windstorm. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention is that organic farmers will use floating row cover to protect some of their crops. You know, most vegetable crops do not have insect problems, but there's a couple that do. Ones that belong to the beet family, that would be beets, chard, and spinach, and they're very susceptible to something called leaf miner. And then cabbage family members are very susceptible to both cabbage loopers, which are those little green inchworms, and aphids. And so since those plants don't need to be pollinated during the season, you can leave the bed covered the entire season and just pull it off to harvest things. So I wanted to mention that. However, if you have plants that need to be pollinated, you cannot leave this on all season long because otherwise the bees can't get to the plants. But I love floating row cover. It works great.
There's another type of cover you might consider, and that is bird netting. This works great if you have a problem with birds pecking at your newly sprouted seeds. I keep my lettuce crops covered with bird netting all season long since birds seem to think lettuce is delicious. I also use it over young pea, bean, and corn seedlings until they're a few inches tall and can fend for themselves. I want birds in my garden to eat insects, so I really can't complain. But bird netting is a nice way to keep the birds away from the tender stuff, and that keeps me happy.
If you're wondering what you've been hearing, I have a bunch of bohemian waxwings in the tree behind me. Now, next week's topic is composting, so I will see you then.